It's fantastic to be back here in Bournemouth. I wonder why we ever went away from Bournemouth. It's absolutely fantastic to be here. But of course, there are some people who will say, Hannah, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, some people will say that these are very dark and gloomy times for our party. And in a sense, if you look at some of the things that are going on, they're entirely right. We managed to score only 9% in the recent European elections. I've never known our party be down at that level before. We are on something like 17, 18, 19, 20% in the polls, apparently. And we have sprouting like two toadstools, two puffballs, feeding saprofitically on the decay in trust in politics. We have the Liberal Democrats and, of course, the Brexit Party, both taking strength, taking votes from our failure to get a great project done. And yet I say to you that the hour is darkest before dawn. And we can turn this thing round. And we can recover and we can win. And I'll tell you what we need to do. There are 3 things that we need to do. And the first of them is what? It is to get Brexit done, to get Brexit over the line by October the 31st and come out of the EU. That is what we're going to do. And I say, anybody who proposes any further delay is simply going to end up eroding trust in politics, eroding people's confidence in our democratic institutions further, and further weakening our great Conservative Party and our mission to lead this country. And it simply won't work. Kick the can again, and we kick the bucket, my friends. That is the sad reality. But we can do so much better, because we can come out on October the 31st. We must come out, and we will. And the way we do it, there's a very good way of getting a great deal. You sort out the problems of the Northern Irish backstop outside the current withdrawal agreement. You disaggregate the elements of that now defunct withdrawal agreement, and you do the citizenship bit first. Give the EU, the 3.2 million EU nationals, the protections that we should have given them years ago, don't you think? Why not? I mean, come on, absolutely right. Give them that. Suspend the money in a state of creative ambiguity, the 39 billion over the talks until we get the answer that we want, and then use the period of the after we have come out, after October the 31st, to settle the problems of the Irish border and all the technical fixes that we know we can introduce to address those issues, whilst we negotiate the free trade deal. That is the logical way to do it, and that, by the way, is an approach that increasingly is carrying support across our party, uniting people on all wings of the Conservative Party. And the way to get that deal, of course, is to make sure that we prepare for no deal. Absolutely. And there will be people who say that it's impossible. There will be people who say that the planes won't fly and there won't be clean drinking water and there won't be enough milk solids and glucose to make and whey to make Mars bars. Well, I say nonsense. The planes will fly and there will be drinking water, whatever happens on November the 1st in this country, and there will be milk solids and glucose and whey for our Mars bars. Where there's a will, there's a way, as I repeatedly said. And once we do it, once we've got out, and while we're in the process of negotiating that fantastic free trade deal, then we will be able to get on and do what the people of this country want us to do. And that is bring the United Kingdom together. The whole UK, the awesome foursome. And if there's one sentence that sums up what I want to do as Prime Minister, it is to unite our country in the way that I was able to unite London. And I look back at those 8 years. I began with a kind of tale of 2 cities. People said that London was deeply divided socially and economically. By the end, we had brought it together. We had 4 of the 6 poorest boroughs anywhere in the UK. By the end, through investment in transport infrastructure, by cutting crime, by building record numbers of homes, we had closed the opportunity gap. We had none of the poorest 20 boroughs anywhere in the UK. And that is what we're going to do with our fantastic country. We're going to invest in infrastructure. We're going to lift up education spending around the country. And we're going to close the ridiculous digital divide that means people across the country do not have access to full fibre broadband in the way that they should. And we're going to make sure that we have a programme of full fibre broadband across the entire UK at least 8 years ahead of the current ludicrously slow timetable. And that will give us the chance. That will give us the chance to campaign for modern conservatism. What I mean by that is the balance, the symmetry between belief in the free market, and we haven't heard enough of it in the last 3 years. We haven't done enough to talk up the moral case, the moral case for conservatism, because that's the way to generate the income that will pay for fantastic public services and infrastructure that are themselves essential for business to invest. And that is a very, very easy case to make. And once we make that case again with conviction and clarity and power, we will be able to do the third and most important thing, which is to defeat Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party. Because that guy would not only put up taxes on inheritance, but on financial transaction tax. He put up taxes on pensions, on income, on gardens, my friends here in Bournemouth. And all to pay for a ludicrous programme of renationalisation amounting to £300 billion. He would be an economic and political disaster for this country. We cannot allow it to happen. Are we going to allow it to happen? No, we certainly are not. And I just say this in conclusion. I don't think it will happen. Yes, things may look gloomy now, but we have a fantastic opportunity. With superhuman incompetence, the Labour Party actually managed to go backwards in the recent council elections. The people of this country aren't swallowing the semi-Marxist claptrap of Jeremy Corbyn and his London cabal. And I would just remind you in conclusion that the last time I had to fight a representative of that cabal of superannuated Marxists and semi-Marxists, I was able, in 2012, far more fertile and an ingenious exponent, by the way, of that ideology than Jeremy Corbyn. My team defeated Ken Livingstone when we were 17 points behind in London. We came from behind to win. We can do it. We will do it. We must do it. And with your help, we will. Thank you very much indeed for listening tonight. Thank you. Sorry.
So I didn't explain the format before, but basically we're going to have a 10-minute or so discussion now, and then the floor will be over to you. First of all, Boris Johnson,
Hannah.
Why do you want to be Prime Minister?
Because I have an overwhelming sense of responsibility right now to... for the last 3 years, I've been, frankly, very frustrated to see the direction of our argument about Brexit. I've been depressed, in a way, to see the way we've tended to run our country down and not believed in ourselves. And one of the things that being Foreign Secretary taught me was that this country is loved and admired and esteemed around the world. And the thing that they've so often said to me, friends in, whether in India or China or the Gulf or wherever, they say, look, you're the United Kingdom, you're Great Britain. If you're going to do this thing, then do it. Believe in it. And I feel that incredibly strongly. I want to have a chance to take us in what I think is overwhelmingly the right direction and get Brexit done on October 31st, then deliver a compassionate, modern, conservative agenda.
Lifelong ambition or sense of public duty?
Well, this is my sister Rachel. Notoriously said that I wanted to be world king, which is not a quotation I recognise, by the way. But I had all sorts of ambitions in my life. I wanted to be a rock star at one stage, and that didn't go at all well. But right now, I think I've got to try to do this. I've really got to try to do this. I can see very clearly what needs to be done, and I have a good plan and a great team. And I'm very proud, by the way, of the range. I mentioned earlier, we've got large numbers of MPs backing me. I don't think anybody expected a year ago that we'd have more than half the parliamentary party behind me, but that's where we are now.
Let's talk policy then. On immigration, that seems to be what you've been discussing today, and the Australian points-based system. We don't have it in this country. Explain exactly how that would work.
Well, what it means, obviously, it's up to the Migration Advisory Committee to look at the Australian experience and try to work out what the best way forward. But what it means for me is that we continue to want to attract talent, and when I was mayor of London, we benefited massively from motivated people coming to London with whatever skill they might have, which this country often needs. But it should be done in a way that is two things. First of all, it should respond to the needs of the sector concerned, so that actually, people should come when there is a job that they have on offer. They should come when there is a need for someone of their skills to come to this country. And they should come in a way, finally, that is democratically controlled. That's the most important thing. And the problem with the way the EU works is that actually there was no control. And people could just come and still can in treating this territory as though it was part of, which legally speaking it is, part of a gigantic 28-nation territory. And that, I think, did produce all sorts of, it did produce benefits, but it also produced lots of strains and lots of confusion.
Going back to this Australian points-based system, yes, though, every system has its faults. What are the downsides of it? The downsides might be. I haven't. We haven't yet put it into practice, so we haven't yet seen what the downsides could be. Before we, let's look at the upsides before we start looking at the downsides. You talked about bringing talent in, for example. What about non-workers wanting to come into this country?
Non-workers?
Students or family members? Okay,
well, family members have, as everybody knows, already very extensive rights of family reunion, which are very clear under our immigration system, and wherever they come from in the world. As for students, I'm Bournemouth University, one of the great university. I'm proud to have a hoodie from Bournemouth University, which I go jogging in. I want to see students taken out of the cap. I think that a higher education economy is one of the glories of the UK's system.
How would the points-based system apply to students and to family members? How would they be rated on a points-based system?
They would not, for my money, be included, because what we're looking at is, family members would have a right of reunion that is understood according to, kindred and affinity and all the rest of it, and there are already established procedures for deciding who can come on the basis of family reunion. As for students, I think that international students contribute massively to the UK higher education economy, billions and billions of pounds in fees. More than 5 billion a year. And the interesting question, actually, and one that really deserves thinking about, is EU students in future who are currently treated for revenue purposes as UK nationals. We will have to consider, obviously, treating them now as international students and asking them to pay as well, which will bring in more money for our universities.
Okay, I want to move on to Brexit. You told me yesterday that the chance of a no-deal Brexit was 1,000,000 to 1. Do you stand by those odds?
Yes, I do. Well, I'm not. This is not a bookies, but I do. I think that. Look, there are several things that have changed since March the 29th, Hannah. Most importantly, the UK failed twice to come out with really catastrophic consequences for trust in politics, and all of us MPs can see that. And you're really seeing a change in the mood in Westminster, a realization that unless we get this thing done, unless we act with maturity and dignity and work together to get Brexit over the line, there will be a very severe judgment of history upon us. And not just a judgment of history, but there will be a democratic retribution upon both the Conservative Party and actually the Labour Party as well. And so that's why I think we have growing opportunity to get this thing done with style, come out on October the 31st, and then, as I say, use the next period to negotiate an FTA and get on with all the rest of the things we need to do.
Looking to this negotiating period then, what relationships did you perhaps forge as Foreign Secretary that you can then take forward? Specific examples of relationships you forged that will help you in this negotiating period?
Well, you may not know this, Hannah, but I spent many happy years in Brussels. I know the system extremely well, and admittedly, I was latterly a correspondent for the Daily Telegraph, but I had good relations with my Irish counterpart, Simon Coveney, who will be very important in the discussions. I certainly know most of the key players, have met them and talked to them, and just if you want evidence of the kind of deal that we were able to do with our European friends and partners, I might single out getting a lot of them to expel Russian diplomats in support of the UK following the poisonings in Salisbury. And a lot of other friendly, the French, the Germans, many others came to showed their solidarity with the UK in a way that was really quite extraordinary. If you consider, to kick out a Russian spy means that you are going to incur, your own country is going to incur retribution from Putin. But they did it to show solidarity with us in the UK, and we organised a lot of that.
Are you currently in contact with European negotiators?
I am currently in contact with loads of people around the world who are wishing me well in the present contest.
But not specifically on your deal?
I have not begun talking to my Monsieur Barnier, who I know, or Sabine Veil, or anybody, though she's moving on, because I think most people in this audience would think that was pretty presumptuous. I'm going to bide my time, but I'm of course. I just think this is an interesting point, though, and it's something underlying your question. We've gone a long way now by going out and asking Brussels for this or that, and then being rebuffed and feeling that we've got nowhere else to go. And I think it's time for a slight change in our approach. I think, if I may say so, I don't want to be. I'm a very irenic kind of guy, and very, very much in favour of dialogue and constant conversation. But in the end, this is a great, great country, and we've made an extremely generous offer of 39 billion in the treatment of the EU nationals, which I say we should get done. There's a very good deal on the table, waiting to be done by our European friends. I just don't know what you think, folks, but I think a little bit more resolve is called for, and a little bit more sense that we can actually get this done.
Well, we've had loads of questions for you, as you'd expect, and it's time to go over to the audience now. And the first up is Stephen Skinner, who has a question.
Stephen Skinner? Not the Stephen Skinner I used to know.
Oh, it might be someone you know. Stephen.
Thank you. Stephen Skinner from North Dorset.
Oh, right. No, OK. Nonetheless, great to hear you.
Having seen all of the hustings and read and heard all of the PR, it's possible that I will decide that one candidate is best for the success of the party and one is best for the prosperity of the country. Which scenario should I vote for and why?
Well, I think that the two individuals are one and the same. And I understand I do, because I genuinely, seriously, Stephen, I think the problem that we've had, and the reason for so much business hesitation and the reason for so much confusion and indecision is that they are reflecting and responding to political indecision and our unwillingness over the last 3 years to decide some fundamental questions about what we're going to do to make sense of Brexit, particularly how to come out of the customs union and how to achieve regulatory divergence, actually to take advantage of the freedoms that Brexit will give us. And I think that will not only, once they have some clarity, once the business community has some clarity, I think that will trigger a great sense of confidence and certainty about the way to proceed. Because, believe me, there's no problem that British business can't in the end solve and address, and there are plenty of opportunities that Brexit will provide, and we will certainly as a government be willing to help. I also think that paradoxically, that clarity will be warmly welcomed across the Channel, where for 3 years they've been rather baffled by what we really want. And when they have a clear answer about what we really want, I think the mood will lighten and we'll be able to take things forward.
Just following up on that then, if it was the choice between party or country...
Yeah, sorry.
If it was the choice, but you can just ignore that. If it was the choice between party or country, the unity of which one should come first?
Again, I think the two, it's a false choice, because I think the two things go hand in hand.
But would the breakup of the union be an acceptable, albeit undesirable...
Right, that's a very good question, Hannah. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about this. Actually, I think that a really good Brexit will help to cement the union, because there are all sorts of ways in which post-Brexit we'll be able to intensify the union. I would also point out that the Scottish Nationalist Party will effectively have their guns spiked, because once we make a great success of Brexit, they will have to argue to the people of Scotland that they want to rejoin the EU, join the Euro, join the Schengen area, submit Scotland to every type of EU regulation, and lose control, which they will have just gained, lose control of Scottish fishing. Is that really a great manifesto for the SNP? Absolutely not. We can entrench and protect and enhance the union by making a success of Brexit and having a sensible approach.
Let's go to another question then. This is from Lyle Smith. I hope I've pronounced your name correctly.
Thank you. It's Liesl. Liesl Smith from Christchurch. I'm a teacher in an SEND school. How are you going to increase the funding in this area? One of the areas we struggle in at the moment is SEND TAs have been underpaid for the level of work they have to carry out for years. And with the increase of students with EHCPs, they're going to be needed more than ever.
Well, thank you very much. I said earlier on, and thank you very much for what you're doing for special educational kids with special educational needs. Of course, they deserve proper funding, just as all kids deserve proper funding. And as I said earlier on, I think that the funding formula in this country has not really reflected the needs of many parts of the nation. And what I would like to do is to level up so that we effectively reverse the changes that came in 2015 and level up around the country. And I think it will cost some money. I don't deny that. But I think the Chancellor had £14.5 billion surplus in revenue over expenditure in February alone. The money is there to pay for it. I don't know what you think, but I cannot think of anything more fundamental to a conservative philosophy than that every kid should have the basic tools of self-improvement, the basic tools of opportunity in their lives. That's what education should be, and we should be funding it properly. So we will make sure that not just primary schools and secondary schools, but also SEND schools as well get them. And by the way, FE colleges also, I think, our further education sector is a total Cinderella sector. It can transform people's lives. We should be putting more money into that as well.